Welcome. I'm happy to record again. It's been a few weeks since I was in the studio. I was away for a vacation with the family, and when you're away on a vacation, life still's life still unfolds and things happen. So there's a wealth of things that you can observe and go through, and in such moments, and it was the case for me. And so I come back here on the mic with a lot of creativity and subject to tackle. Today, I want to talk about our inner wars, the fight that we do in ourselves in order to change, to transform. And why am I inspired to talk about that? Well, because I read a comment, actually it was a video with a post on LinkedIn, and the person was saying that we need to go to war with ourselves to change what we want to change in order to become the best version of ourselves, or exploit our full potential, either or. That we needed to set small goals in order to do that and be happy. And I don't see it from the same perspective. And so I replied with a short comment. I think I said, war stuff. I think the meeting with self with a capital S, can be sufficient. And of course, that leaves room to a lot of interpretation. And so he posted something back with his 2 cents, which was great. I mean, that's the richness of communicating and exchanging with other people, right? And he elaborated a little bit on what he meant and asked me from my perspective. And I said, well, wow, well, what a beautiful opportunity to record and teach in regards of this subject. And by the way, I don't think this is something I've said in any of the teachings I've recorded here so far, but this is my own perspective. And you take it or you leave it, and that's fine. As a matter of fact, if you're listening to my teachings here or on any platform, you're more than welcome to listen to them and forget about them if you want. Ultimately, what I'm really hoping and inviting you to do every time is to check in, and it's to experience whatever I'm talking about and teaching for yourself. That's the greatest teacher. Life is the greatest teacher. Not me, not another teacher, spiritual teacher, or guru or master, or any coach. You are. You are your own guru. I'm just here to guide and show some light on things that you might not have encountered yet or dealt with. And my own evolution is not done. Not by any closeness enlightened being. Go read about true enlightened beings and what they did, and you'll never use that word again. I'm a simple man, a simple teacher that experienced a lot on the spiritual path and was willing to share my own experiences and recognition of truth. But that doesn't mean anything until you experience for yourself. So that's what I'm inviting you to do here today, and in any other teaching that you might listen to, whether it's from me or somebody else. There's so much to say about inner wars, and we quite vividly know about them from personal experiences and from what we can observe. We don't need to go far. I'm recording this in 2024. We can go far depending on where you are in the world, but we don't need to think about it too far to recognize that we do have inner wars. Look at Putin and what he's doing in Russia, whether it's legitimate or not. It's not for me to say. But creating war and invading other countries and killing people, I think it's fair to say that one is very disturbed inside to do that. Otherwise, there's no reason why you would do such acts. So inner wars is our predicament. That's what we all go through as human beings. And how can it be any different? Because we are here on earth to evolve, right? I don't remember who said that, but it's quite true. Souls are sent here on earth to evolve. And let's not get into karma and whatnot and diseases and why people die and all these things. We're here to evolve, and we all go through our inner wars, whatever that looks like for you and me. For some, it might be more painful, more terrible than others, but at the end of the day, suffering is suffering. And we all suffer from the inner wars that we create for ourselves, dependent or not on external events. You know, terrible things happen to some people, didn't have anything to do with that. But then it's safe to say that as you evolve spiritually, if you're still suffering from those things that happened 20, 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 70 years ago, well, you're creating that. Not anybody else. And it's not anybody's faults anymore. When the event is done, as terrible as it might be. And if we're still suffering from that, that's our problem. But that's big stuff. How about the little stuff? Because that's what the person was referring to. If you want to make change in your life, to become the best version of yourself, I'm sharing here the person's thoughts so that I can go into my own perspective, okay? So the person is saying, if you want to be the best version of yourself, you got to embrace change. And you got to do better every day, which is all true. You got to have realistic goals and attain them so that you become happy. Well, you don't need any goals to be happy. If you need goals to be happy, there's a problem. I have so much to say. So let's keep going with what the person shared with me to give the level the playing field here on this subject of inner wars. So the person said that the meeting with our higher self is a first step. To be conscious in order to be able to make decisions. And when you're there, you got to make choices. And you got to go at war with yourself to liberate yourself from the conflicts and the inner wars that society has imposed on you, and then march your way onto your full potential. So he says that the reckoning or the meeting with our higher self awakens us, but it is the fight that transforms us. It's very poetic, and that's what we'll read and hear about in most of the personal growth books and teachings out there. From a spiritual perspective, though, it's quite different. And I can talk about this from solid grounds. I was once in a very big war with myself to make change happen and to be the best version of who I could be or attain my full potential. And we can do all sorts of things when we're there. Funny, crazy, call it whatever you want. In my case, it was a little bit extremist. I became a super, there's a term for it. How do we call those people that do biohacks? And I don't remember. But anyways, I imposed on myself a regiment in my life, whether that was physical, emotional, psychological. I was military like. From the moment I wake up in the morning and what I would do and the hours I would spend in meditation every day and the books I would read every day and the training that I would do every day and the stuff I would eat every day. And I mean, my first meal is a salad if I was not fasting, and then the training, and then the last meal that has to be taken before 5 so that my metabolism digests my food properly, so I can go in good sleep patterns, and which I was monitoring with my Hua ring, by the way. And then that's not enough. I mean, no screen time after X hour, and you got to wear those glasses that blocks the light to optimize your sleep, and black out the room, and put on the mask to sleep, and then no noise, and abstract or abstain from sex, and also, I mean, yeah, crazy stuff. I mean, I laugh now because it was all meant for a better ending. The intentions were good. And that's just the good part, So the intention was pure, and it was meant for my growth and become the best version of I could be and whatnot. And it was holistic and all that jazz. And this is just one example. I'm picking on me, but at the end of the day, I realized that I was still trapped. Even though I had all of those disciplines and practices and things that I was doing, I was still trapped within my little self, trying to do all of these things for me. And as beautiful as it is to do these things, as beautiful as it might sound, when you're doing it from that perspective, from that lens, without any spiritual evolution going, we're still doing it for you. And they can be good outcomes. I mean, don't get me wrong, right? You can be in shape, you can be sharp, you can be so healthy that you get to play with your kids and move around and do hikes and experience things, like whatever, right? There can be good outcomes out of doing this. But I was not evolving spiritually, or not as fast as I could have. And I felt trapped. And not only that, it was a big fight. It was a big war inside. It was tough. It was so tough that it burned me. On top of all of those obstacles we have to go through in our lives, and potentially conditionings and patterns and traumas that we have to overcome. Add on top of that all that I shared. I mean, at one point I was on my knees crying that I wasn't going to be here anymore and I would be fine. So that's one extreme, obviously. But my point is, it's easy to fight with oneself in order to grow and become a better version and to attain your full potential. And it seems like it's our natural default, too. We've been conditioned that way, perhaps. But society doesn't have anything to do with that anymore. You know, if you want to free yourself from the chains of society, like the person said, well, you got to do that for yourself. And you're responsible for being chained. Nobody chained you. You did. And there's this movement from little self to big self that needs to take place at one point. Why do I say that? Well, first and foremost, let's level the playing field on the self and big self here, right? When you read all the different scriptures and from different traditions and whatnot, from masters and gurus and saints and teachers and anywhere, anything, they all pretty much agree on these two terms. Little self, with a little s, is egoic base, is what is motivated by your fears, by your doubts, by your desires, your preferences, your needs, your hopes, your dreams. All of that is in the same boat there. Little self stuff. Capital S, self, is your higher self. That's your soul. That's your conscience. That's your consciousness. That's your Atman. That's love. That's compassion. That's clarity. That's knowledge. That's wisdom. All that. And sometimes you play on both sides. You have to at one point. It's not just one big leap and you forget about the other one. You know, you touch on the two tarps at one point. But soon enough, one will realize that fighting with oneself is not a necessity. Whatever habits, change, practices that you want to bring forth doesn't have to be done in a warlike type of environment within yourself. That's tough. That's exhausting. And there's not a lot of love in there. Although one can say, oh, you know, some people go to war for their country and there's a lot of love in that. Okay, yeah. But I see much more honor and duty there than love. But that's not the point, because when you go there, you tend to go philosophical, and spirituality deals with truth, not beliefs. So the truth is that yes, you can fight within yourself to obtain or change or transform into a positive goal that you might have for yourself. But soon enough, you start to realize that there's other ways, and it doesn't have to sound and feel like a fight. It's like the mind, you know. If something comes up in your mind and you get disturbed, there's no point in fighting with it. Don't fight with the mind. You lose. It's like two negatives that touch each other. You know, they repel. Fighting with the mind is the same thing. You'll lose 100% of the time. It's like fighting with reality. I remember being coached one-on-one once by the great Baron Katie. Well, that's one lesson I picked up in that coaching. Don't fight with reality. You'll lose every time. 100% of the time. As there has to be another way. And the way to create a long-lasting interchange, transformation, has to do with consciousness. The person said to me, being conscious of this predicament you're in awakens you, but then the fight liberates you. And I'd say, no, that's not true. The consciousness is the beginning and the end. It is what will free you at every turning point. When you become accustomed to being more and more conscious every day of your life, it will help you to effortlessly do what needs to get done. Take someone that overeats, for instance. Well, if I'm overeating and I don't know when to stop, and I feel bad every time I do so, at one point in this equation, the lack of consciousness is the main factor. Because if I would be aware of the fact that I am filling my body with an enormous amount of food, whether it's good food or not, by the way, same thing, then that's a spark, right? Maybe that's the recognition or the awakening the person was talking about. But then as you evolve and you place more and more attention on being conscious every day, you will see yourself actually eating. I often see it for myself as another pair of eye here looking at me. And that pair of eye ear looking at me is my soul, is my consciousness, is the everlasting, never dying piece of me that can be observing my physical body and what I do and what I eat, and can tell me, look, buddy, that's enough. You know it's enough. Just listen in. And that alone can be the great turning point instead of the inner fight. If I'm not conscious, there's a fight happening inside because I want something. I'm listening to my bodily needs. My senses are craving something. And then I'm starting a fight inside to battle this need, senses, ideas, concepts, and whatnot that will come up in emotions and that will come up when I'm in this position of wanting to overeat or wanting to eat more. If I'm not conscious, all of that will happen. And then there's a big fight that will happen inside. If I'm trying to mitigate that by having a strict diet and exercising and doing all of that jazz, it's going to work. It's going to be good, but it's still going to feel like a fight. I think the moment that somebody doesn't feel like it's a fight anymore might be because it's just ingrained now. But I wonder if they would still have cravings at times, or doubts or whatnot. I don't know, because I've never been there, so I cannot speak of that for myself. But I can certainly compare it to other things in my life, and then the answer would be yes. You're not done. If you haven't brought consciousness upon the change you're trying to make, whatever practices and disciplines and things you do, whatever positive outcome you'll get out of it, There's still going to be some fears and some doubts and some cravings and some attachment. You're not free. You're not done. When you bring consciousness into the mix, it does you. You're not doing anything anymore. It becomes so clear that what needs to get done, and you do it. That's the main difference between the confusion that people have around non-dualism. They all think it has to do with external action. It doesn't. Non-dualism is something of the inside. It is the fight you're not having inside of yourself. You will have to do something at every point in time in your life. It's inevitable. That's just the nature of life. It's a happening place. You will have to do some things. You will have to have actions. But the first thing that you need to deal with is what is happening inside. How much harder will it be for someone that is trying to create healthy habits around, I don't know, their physical well-being, or someone that is trying to get rid of their overthinking? How difficult would that be for those individuals if they fight it? They fight every impulses and every desires and every thing inside their own body and mind. It's hard. And you know it from your own experiences. If you try to control and mitigate what is happening inside by doing things outside, you're going to go full circle. And you're not evolving spiritually when you do that. You may have positive outcomes, physically, emotionally, psychologically, but you're casting out your spiritual evolution, which is the great liberator. When you catch on that they're linked deeply, that not only they're linked deeply, they're the same thing, then you can start doing the great work. And the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. Let us remind this one. So, and it doesn't mean that. Okay, so hold on, Max. Let's take a simple example. The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. I don't have any preferences as far as my body goes anymore. Whether I'm overweight or not, doesn't matter. No preferences. So you tell me that I should just go and live on my life and remain in this predisposition? Well, no, that's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you, though, is if you place your attention on your consciousness and your spiritual evolution, your body will take care of itself. And you will help. It will be stronger than you not to do anything about it. You will move. You will move and exercise properly, whatever that means for you. You will eat beautifully because it will be asked of you. If you closely listen in with all your consciousness, your body will tell you exactly what it needs and when it's enough and what it wants and what it's craving for. You are a magnificent machine inside. So yes, go on and do the diets and do the exercise and do the programs and do whatnot. but do it with consciousness. And you won't fight. You'll oblige, respect, honor, love. Tremendous love and compassion will flow through. And that's an ingredient that changes it all. Consciousness is the beginning and the end. That's the great liberator. And you want that when you walk that path and you bring this along with you, you will grow in compassion beyond your imaginable, hopes. You will grow in compassion. You will grow in love. You will grow in patience. You will grow in wisdom and clarity. You're going to see things for what they are, truly at their essence, at their root. You're going to catch yourself overthinking, overdoing, fighting, arguing. And you're going to say, oh, hold on a minute. What am I doing? I'm being stuck in my little self again. I'm doing it all over again. I'm doing it. I'm so used to it. I'm so addicted to it. But this is the truth. That this is all I can do, and this is all I've learned. What I'm teaching you is that it's time to learn something new. Something that you won't have to learn much after all. In this path of your own evolution, there's much more of unlearning happening than learning. It's all there within you already. It's all there. But you haven't visited. You haven't visited those depths yet. So don't tell me that don't tell me that the self is just the awakening, and then the fight is what the great transformer. You don't know what the self is yet. You're fighting because you don't know what the self is. And when you think you know the self, well, you don't. It's just spiritual bypass. It's just another stage. So keep looking, keep observing, keep connecting. And you do that with tremendous patience and observation and love. It's not up to chance that yoga, which is a great scientific approach to life, as one of his path as bhakti yoga, devotional yoga. When you give your life and love to somebody else greater than you, whether it's a guru or God or life, or call it whatever you want, by definition, you need to start getting out of your little self and all of the fighting and combat and wars that you do inside of you, and all of those conditionings and patterns and traumas and whatnot. You have to get out of that by definition, because it's not about this anymore. It's about something bigger than yourself. And all of the yoga paths will lead you there. The Western way of doing yoga, even though you don't know about it, is an action. It's by doing. Whether it's at work, whether it's in your family homes, whether it is in your relationship, you will have to do things. Whether you want to be the best version of yourself or exert your full potential, you'll have to do things. And it is in this very doing that you have an opportunity to free yourself at every turn, at every moment. Because by doing, you will come up against stuff that you don't like and that rocks your boat and that ignites something inside. Obstacles will naturally rise up by themselves. And you got to work with them. You got to work with yourself first and then work with them. And that's not a fight. That's the work. You can do that with ease. It doesn't mean it's not going to be hard. It doesn't mean it's not going to be painful. I can tell you that much. It's going to be painful, emotionally, physically, mentally. The stuff that you stored inside can literally hurt when they go out. It will hurt in one way or another. I can promise you that much. It can also hurt physically. I've experienced this myself. I've let go of a few things in my life, and some of them hurted like hell. Like hell. Physically. I thought I was going to die. It's a big release of energy. We spent a whole talk on that. There's a teaching that you can go. I don't remember the name. I think I called it The Dance of Your Energies. There it is. Yeah. Go listen to this one. You'll connect the dots with what we're talking about here about our inner wars and where it's coming from and how it's all energy that's been stagnant within that you need to free, you need to liberate. You know that I love yoga. I might be a great Christian yogi, but you know that in yoga, they say, or they call God Chit Shakti. Chit Shakti is the name they use for God, meaning conscious energy. That's where we're coming from. That's what it was before the beginning. That's what it will be in the end. And that's what you have inside of you flowing at any moment. The problem is you play with it. You play with it and you store it and you bottle it up and energy has to move. So it is there. It's just circulating on itself. And when something hits your stuff, poof, there you go. Pops out again, hits your heart, hits your head, shit show starts. And then you're in this, storm again. That's what the fight is coming from.